Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening, and welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, and welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have Victoria Alercia-Casella, founder and owner of Victoria Alercia-Casella LPC Counseling Services. Victoria is a licensed professional counselor with her private practice located in Eastern Pennsylvania. With 13 years' experience in the mental health field, she is always looking for new ways to connect with others in her community, to encourage self-care and provide education on how to become the healthiest version of yourself. She is the creator and facilitator for the Lehigh Valley Women's Empowerment Group, along with two other mentors and business owners, Wandra Cain of WC Interiors and Cristy Mette of Joyful Self Wellness Center. Victoria is also the host of Share with V, connecting with our community on WGPA Sunny 11 a.m. This show provides a platform for all individuals to share their story and have their voice heard. But without further ado, please welcome to my platform this evening, Victoria Alercia-Casella. Hey, Victoria, how are you?
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. Like people don't know that we talk. I always talk to my guests before the show, and we were just saying how crazy everything is. And this is just a fresh breath of air to be able to just a breath of fresh air, just to be able to, talk about something different and not have to worry about all the things that are surrounding us in our homes and outside of our homes. So I'm absolutely excited to have you on. And Victoria, before we really dive into some things, why don't you just tell the listeners just a little bit more about who Victoria Alercia-Casella is?
Woo, all right. So how much time do we have? Yeah. So I am, I am so many roles. I am a daughter, a mother, a therapist, a friend. I try to do it all, which I will probably get into later, my superwoman complex that I have learned to let go of over the years. But right now, with the new lifestyle that kind of been forced into with running my business from home the past couple weeks and also homeschooling my 3 children, has changed our routine a little bit, but I'm still doing my best to do what I love, which is being a counselor, and still trying to put positivity out there in the community, which is really just through social media at this point. Mm-hmm. And just, the positivity and still connecting with people and helping others as much as I can. And that's always been my role, just the helper. So any way I can help others and guide them and, help them become healthier. That's what I do. That's who I am.
Right. And, as you said, as you were talking, the biggest thing that I'm hearing, and I'm sure everybody is needing this, is just that positivity. Somebody relaying to people that everything's going to be okay. And then on top of that, we have to even remind ourselves, as business owners, as we're constantly helping others, that, we got to remind ourselves that it is going to be okay. You got to pat yourself on the back every day and just say, you know what, we're here, we're breathing, and we are okay. And so,
absolutely.
Having people like you who counsel and provide these services to people, I know it's definitely can be very overwhelming just on a normal basis, but I'm sure, right now people are just literally, like I said, going over the edges, and it has not been that long that we have all been kind of locked down in our own environments. So I can imagine what you're going through. But, before we kind of dive into that part of the conversation, I would love to learn more about the things that you've gone through that led you to where you're at today. Why and how did you decide to become, to get into the field of counseling? What led you to this?
So it goes back to my childhood, and I actually really love sharing this story because I do believe that all of us end up in a career or in our path because of like the moments that, I don't want to say like defined us, But just, growing up, I remember whenever I would see my mom sad or my brother struggling with something or just family disagreements, I was the one who tried to do something to help, to make them smile, to make them laugh. And then as it became older, my friends in school, if they had an issue with their boyfriend, I was the go-to person. Vicky, let me talk to you about what happened, or I had an argument with my parents the other night. Can I talk to you about it? And I'm talking from back to maybe 8th grade.
Wow.
And I took my first psychology class in high school, and I really loved my professor. And honestly, the rest was history after that. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. I loved it so much. I just continued from there. I never changed my field.
Right. And, and it's amazing how, you learned very early on who you were. And like you said, you were that go-to person. And it's funny how there's always somebody that becomes that go-to person, but not everybody's willing to grasp onto that and say, I don't want that responsibility. And here you decided at a very young age that this is the field you want to be in. This is responsibility. And this is the role. And saying that you love it means a whole lot because it makes it easier to dive into that, for your future.
Sure.
So as you realize, the things that you went through, like you said, the people, that you were around having the troubles and the things that they were doing. So when you decided after high school, obviously you went to college for this. And so you are actually more focused into cognitive behavioral therapy. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah. It all goes back to your mindset is what I believe.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that too. And I think that with the patterns of how people are raised and the things that they see, they have that consistency that rolls over into others. So you're changing the mindset that people so that they can believe in who they are and their thoughts and how they can control who they are as individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a topic that I have with everyone, no matter what concern it is that they're coming into session with, if it's relationship or financial or their job. I ask them, well, what is it that you're focusing on? Are you aware of what you're thinking about all day long? Because think about it, if all day long you're telling yourself, I'm stupid, I'm not good at this, I'm bad at my job, I'm not a good enough mother, anyone would feel terrible at the end of the day if that's the record in your mind that keeps on replaying, and it's so challenging being a counselor, and you're an empath. If you're a counselor, you're probably an empath, so you take on other people's emotions, and it can be very draining. But when you have those moments with someone where they have this aha epiphany moment where you see that they finally get it, they finally understand what it is that they need to change and what's been happening, it's just such a beautiful experience. I feel like you almost can't even explain what's happening in that moment.
Right.
To be part of that with someone.
I can imagine, I guess. And I think it's no different than how we all feel when we're in business. When we first come into business, we're excited about, hey, we get to be an owner, we get to do our own thing. But then when you realize that the services or the things that you provide touch a person in a certain way, and you are a part of that, that has to be exciting. And I'm sure that, like you said, that's the same way that you feel with your clientele, because there's no person that's going to be the same per se, that, the way that you approach the therapy sessions with them. So talk and walk us through, my listeners, about the process that you do go through with your clientele that you may have.
Well, I start off with the intake. So it's basically just asking general information, and I try to meet the client where they're at and discuss everything from what's your sleeping patterns like, how are you eating, are you exercising. So I love that that's my approach, because to me, everything's connected in our lives. So it's not just about where are you emotionally and mentally, it's who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with? What's that environment that you're subjecting yourself to? Do you like your job? Do you have a support system? If you're not getting enough sleep, if you're having medical issues that aren't being addressed, if you're eating crappy food every day, those things alone are going to be affecting you. It's not just mental health. It's all these aspects of your life. And I love being able to connect that all together. And a huge part of what I think makes everyone good in their field is when you reach the point where you acknowledge you also don't have the answer. So if there's parts, like, so if a client's talking to me about a medical condition, and I'm not a doctor, I'm a therapist, you know, I will refer them to a doctor to get more information. So it's also important to be aware of that as well, to acknowledge when you don't have the answer, to help them out, and when you need to refer them to someone else for guidance in other areas, which is the connection part of what I do, you know, connecting with other people and having those resources to be able to share with the individuals that I work with.
And I like that. And like what you just said, the fact that basically you're saying stay in your lane. You know your lane. Like you said, you're not a doctor, you're a therapist. So it's okay to say, I don't know that, but being able to connect them to the appropriate people that need to have to help them go through the whole process of healing, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're helping people to heal, not from the outside, but from the inner to the outside, so that they can live those healthier lives that you're trying to interject and make them realize that, hey, you can have this, but you need to understand where you're at before you can actually move forward. So
absolutely.
The business itself, and, you know, talk a little bit about challenges. We all have challenges. You know, these are things that every business goes through, but how does it affect you and the things that you're doing, being that the type of work that you provide in your community? You know, obviously you're not the only therapist there, I'm sure, but what are some of the things that you felt you've struggled throughout the years with your business?
I would say, so I've been in the field for, I guess, more than 13 years now, but it's been gradual until I've only been in my private practice by myself for the last 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was building it up slowly as I was working in a group practice. And the one thing that I quickly learned is loneliness. So, so in my business, it's just me. I'm the only counselor, and I have my clients, but I don't have colleagues, not like working in a group practice. So for me, one of the challenges is, you know, was how do I stay connected? How do I stay connected to other therapists, you know, to mentors, supervisors, the community? And I'm a very social person. So I want to say it was pretty easy for me to be able to make those connections. But to just be aware of what I needed, you know, that I needed someone to help me with the business aspect, because I think it's funny that I tell people I have a business, but I don't define myself as a business person, if that makes any sense. Okay. Like I you know, because there's so much more that I feel like I still need to learn with being a business owner. And I feel like we're always students. I feel like we're always learning. There's new to learn. And I think that's such a good approach to go through life, is whether you've been in your business for 2 years or 25 years, there's probably something new that you can still learn by staying connected with other people. So I think overall that has been my challenge of just, you know, not beating myself up over not knowing the answers, like telling myself it's okay, and then being able to reach out to other people to stay connected, to ask for guidance. And another part of that is actually not comparing myself to others and not comparing my business to other people's businesses, because there have been moments where I would be like, oh, I wish I was seeing as many clients as that person, or I wish I was able to do these other things that this therapist is doing. But, well, my life is different. Their life is different. Our journeys are different. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, so that's a huge part, I think, for anyone. That one of my favorite quotes is, comparison is the thief of joy. And, you know, that let's just celebrate with each other. It's not about comparison. It's not about who is doing better or more, has bigger. Like we're each on our own individual path and journey, and, you know, celebrate with each other, with each other's successes. So
yeah, and I
I think that's it.
Well, you know, but those are two huge things when you think about it. And I love how you described how loneliness means to you and how it affects you in a way in business, because, you know, when most people hear the term loneliness, they're thinking just beyond the people. It's like, oh, it's just people. I want to be around people. I want to be around people, but not really understanding, like you said, the layout and the journey that you're on is completely different than somebody else's. And then obviously we all definitely go through that process, especially when you're new and on your own and you're like, so you're still growing. We all go through that. Oh, I want to compare myself to this woman over here. She's doing the same thing I'm doing. Yeah. But the reality is she may be a therapist or he may be a therapist, but they're definitely not doing the same thing. And I think that's where everybody stands out. And, those types of challenges you will constantly face, I think, as business owners do, because you don't want to stay stagnant. You want to grow. So as you're growing, and you'll have some of those growing pains of trying to figure out, where are you going? Is this how you saw yourself when you did decide to step out 2 or 3 years ago, and vice versa, So, I love how you explain that, because I think a lot of times what people don't understand is that when they see us as business owners, they just see the shell. They see that, oh, the life is so perfect, as a business owner, and not realizing that it's tough. It is always tough to be an owner, and whether you have one person that's running it, or if there's 10 people, because obviously the larger you are, the more responsibility that comes with that process too. Sure. And then the other thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Another thing that I think I've learned over time is that my initial view of how I thought something would be is usually not how it ended up. And initially when that would happen, it would just shift me to this negative place. Like, oh, I can't believe that didn't work out. I'm just going to give up. And over time, I've shifted that thought process to be excited for, well, if that didn't work, then that just means that something better is coming. And instead of feeling discouraged, I'm just going to be really excited for that unexpected thing that's going to come up. And what a huge change that makes. Like, so going back to mindset, with me being a therapist, changing your mindset, changing your perspective, you go from negative to positive, by you choosing what you want to focus on.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, it lifts that weight off your shoulders when you realize that the direction that we always think is the right direction does not necessarily mean it is in the direction that you're supposed to be in is what makes you realize that, hindsight is, 2020, but if you'd have went that one direction, you're thinking, wow, that could have been a total disaster if I had done it my way per se, and this learning to have that guidance, that God gives you as well. I always believe is needs to be a center of everything that we do. And I believe that helps us get through all the things that we prepare ourselves for. Because I even noticed that when I was reviewing some of your documentation about yourself, that you talk a lot about holistic healing as well, and meditation and so forth. Because I honestly believe that we don't do enough of that to keep us sane, so to speak. Because we live in a world that's constantly moving, but I think that we are definitely being tested, with the way things are today. Yes. Yeah. If you're not taking some time,
I think,
go ahead.
I think to myself, how many people have said to themselves, I wish I had time to just sit down at home and not have to drive around. Well, guess what? Everyone's wish just came true, because now we're in, not to joke about a serious situation, but I do think about that, maybe this is happening for a reason. That we just don't, you have to look for that reason or try to figure it out. But,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an opportunity to reevaluate your life, think about the things you haven't done. And because like I said, we're so used to just getting up and going, and we say to ourselves all day long, like you said, we just don't have enough time for this and blah, blah, blah. But now we have no choice. And so this is absolutely an opportunity to move forward and think about the things you want to continue to do and start doing the things you haven't done. But at the same time, you want to stay balanced. And like I said, I think that being in the profession that you're in, you're definitely needed with all the things that people are feeling inside themselves and what they're going through, not being able to walk outside when they want to or go somewhere else when they want to and do certain things and be around family and friends that they normally would be around. This is definitely a unique time frame for all of us. And that's when I want to kind of go backwards here and talk a little bit more about when you were saying we were talking about some of the challenges you face, and we talking about connection in the community. You actually, with some other ladies, and for those who don't know, I know all three of these wonderful ladies.
Yes.
I have had the opportunity to meet you, and I've had the opportunity to meet Wandra and Cristy, of course, and I've been there to Easton, Pennsylvania, and have enjoyed the opportunity to get to know all you ladies. And so you talk about, you have this women's empowerment group. So talk a little bit about this empowerment group and how you created it and what you guys do there.
So it definitely is connected to my counseling business, because as a counselor, I would have a lot of women coming in talking about their negative self-talk and just how they put all this pressure on themselves. And a lot of what they were saying, as I'm listening to them, I'm thinking to myself, I'm struggling with the same thing. And I thought, how nice would it be to have this place where all women could get together and just be genuine and open and honest with each other. And I wouldn't be in the role of being a therapist. I would just be a woman. I would just be a woman being able to talk about my own struggles. And so I, had this vision, and it's so interesting how God just lines up people's paths. So Wandra and Cristy were looking for office spaces in the same building that I was looking for an office space in. And we met the one day, and I sat down with both of them, and I shared this vision, and they said, we love that. That's right where we are, too, in our lives. And that's what started the group, that they joined me with this vision. And I think it's been like 2 years now. And we offer the group the first Monday of every month. It's free to women in our community. And we're also on Facebook. If you just look up the Lehigh Valley Women's Empowerment Group, you can join us on Facebook. And the three of us are the administrators of the group. And every day we're posting something positive, a quote, a book, a journal prompt, a song, just, anything to uplift and motivate and inspire. And it's just been beautiful. I mean, the women that we've met through there have just been wonderful, and how we've been able to connect with each other and support each other. It's almost indescribable. It's just really lovely.
Yeah, and I like the way you said that you were talking about the group, that you just even needed an opportunity to be around women that you could just talk to. You didn't need to talk as a therapist. You just wanted to be an opportunity to be just like everybody else. And because you need that too. You need to have that support system. And even though you've provided and you facilitated and create and helped be a creator of this, you still need to have those opportunities. And I love that. And then I noticed that, we talked about the fact that I was reading that you have your own show that you host, your own radio show. And so talk a little bit about the radio show and how you're connecting with the community.
So that radio show just shifted this new year, where now I actually have a co-host, Mark Kenny, who is the clinical coordinator at Chestnut Hill College in Philly, and he was actually one of my professors in graduate school. So he joined me on the show, and we changed the name a little bit too. So now it's just called Community Connection, and it's all about mental health awareness for our community. And so we've only done our first episode. I don't even know what month it is anymore. Our first episode was in February, and then March we had one of the local hospitals, St. Luke's, coming on to talk about their counseling services. And our plan is every month we're going to have people from the community come on and talk about events coming up in the community to support one another. Once again, just the same mission of we aren't alone in our struggles. We're here to help each other and educate each other and guide each other. And so last year when I was doing my radio show by myself, and it was called Share with V, it was very similar in content in terms of giving everyone this platform to come on and just kind of talk about their journey and what they're experiencing, with the hopes of someone who's listening can relate and recognize that we aren't alone in what we're struggling with. Like, someone else understands it. I think we become so fearful to allow ourselves to show our vulnerability, that we just stay stuck, but we don't realize the strength in vulnerability, that if we can just allow our voice to be heard, I can almost we can't really guarantee anything, but I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be at least one other person out there who can understand and relate to what you're going through. And that's what makes it beautiful in sharing your story. I know you get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's powerful. It's powerful because there's always somebody who does believe that they are alone. And, and that's where I think we all in our own right go through a process of mental health, but it's depending on how far that journey goes. And, like we're saying, if you're telling each other every day, telling yourself every day that you're no good, you're this, you're that, or whatever the case is, and it's all negative, it turns and it ruptures into something horrible. And a big part of that is because there's something deep within inside of you that you haven't dealt with. And so when you have these opportunities to be able to share your story and you're learning and hearing about somebody else, because it's not everybody's going to want to come out and talk about what they've been through, but when they can hear it through somebody else and they're saying, oh my gosh, that's me, it does have an awakening within you, and it's just, you just hope and pray that that person does reach out and you can get to them so that they do realize that there is hope, that they can definitely move forward in their lives. So I definitely love what you're doing in the community and the way you have connected. And, even though these last couple of years in business have probably been a little scary, you have done a great job.
Yeah.
And you definitely need to continue doing what you're doing. But I have a couple more questions for you.
Sure. Absolutely.
I ask all my guests when they come on the show, to teach somebody about what they would do in business if someone was to come up and ask you the question, what advice would you give them about coming into business?
I would say keep on asking questions. Like I said earlier, no one has all the answers. And I say that if I didn't have the support group that I had with starting my business, I think I would have given up very quickly because it was so overwhelming and I had much more questions than answers when I first started. And I can definitely see why some people might give up so quickly, but I had, 2-3 main supports who have done it before me, and they were so patient and willing to really hold my hand kind of every step of the way to get me started. And I still just ask questions. I read, I go to trainings, I ask questions, I reach out to mentors. And like I said, also don't beat yourself up over not knowing the answers. I think that's my main thing. Yeah. I think just keep on reaching out for help and asking questions. That's what's helped me through my business journey and still does.
Yeah, and that's important because, like you said, it's not about having all the answers. It's truly about engaging and reaching out to people and feeling that it's okay. Because the big thing I think about being a business is that our focus is to be the experts within our field. Yeah, it's not really always about trying to understand everything else, and it's okay to learn as you go, because if you think you know everything when you first come in, it's like, what's the purpose? It's like, right. You're never going to grow. You're never going to be
absolutely
the business.
Some people are like that, unfortunately, but
absolutely. Yeah. Or it's the fear of, are they going to steal my ideas and blah, blah, blah. There's like I always tell people, you're really not reinventing the wheel here. You don't need to, you're not the only business out there that does therapy. It's just how you deliver it. Right. That's the difference. So, like I said, I applaud you again for what you're doing, because I think it's a amazing thing, and that you're truly helping people in the community who need it. And the awareness of mental health definitely needs to be continually talked about, because it happens every day. But the other thing, obviously we want to know, how can the listeners get a hold of you if they want to reach out for any sessions, and where they can find your group at beyond Facebook there in Easton, Pennsylvania, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I have a couple connections. So people can always call me or text me at 610-905-2153. I have my email at alerciav@yahoo.com. I don't have my own website, but you can find my profile on psychologytoday.com. There is a group website that I have with Cristy and Wandra. That's lvempoweraourcommunity.com. And I can also be followed on Instagram. I think that's everything.
Okay. I wanted to ask now, your website, is it still the www.psychologytoday.com? Is that still available?
So, so that is actually a forum where all therapists can be found.
Oh, okay.
It's like a general search where you can look for any therapist in any field.
Okay.
So I just have a profile on there where you would just type in my name and then my profile will come up and it would have like my history and my background and all the groups and everything that I offer.
Awesome. All right, then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I was like, well, let me just throw that out there because I wasn't for sure. So like,
that's fine. And if for some reason I spelled something wrong or whatever, I did give my number, so a person can always call me or text me, and I can, confirm the other, sources of connection.
All right. Well, Victoria, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and hopefully
I've needed this positive boost of energy, like I said to you earlier, after these last 2 weeks of just, trying to figure everything out at home, the new norm. I was like, oh, this is so great to just be able to connect with another positive woman and talk about something else other than, the chaos in our world right now.
Exactly. And I appreciate it. And I love these moments too, because I think everybody just needs to step away from the news for a while and just breathe, realize that, yes, I'm praying for those families who have lost their loved ones during this pandemic. But at the same token, for those, we're here, and, we definitely need to be thankful and just learn to love each other and spend the time with each other in the most positive way, because these moments aren't always going to be available. So, I just hope that everybody, hears what we're saying and realizes that, we're not making any fun of any of this, but at the same token, we're here to bring positivity to everybody's lives. And that's what my show is about. And that's what Victoria does on her show and in her everyday life, is to teach you how to be your healthiest version of yourself.
Absolutely. Beautiful. I love it.
That's right. I love it. I stole it from your stuff. You know that, right? I was like, I love that portion, the healthiest version of yourself, because it is important that we all need to do that within ourselves. But again, I want to thank you for coming on. Do you have any last words for our listeners this evening?
Actually, so my logo for my counseling business is begin each day with a positive thought and a grateful heart. And that is what I just tell everyone, that there's always something to be grateful for every day. And if you choose every day to have a positive mindset, you're off on a good start.
All right. You guys heard it live from Victoria Alercia-Casella. She said it, and she said it the right way. We have something very thankful to be thankful for every day. Think on a positive note, and believe me, each day will be much better. Again, thank you for coming on tonight as my special guest. You're very welcome. I've had a wonderful time. For everyone else, we are here every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern live. You can hear us on iHeartRadio and Spotify, and we are on about 9 or 10 other new platforms. So if you missed the live show tonight, you can go back and re-listen to the show. Believe me, you want to listen to the show. You're going to miss out on these great golden nuggets that Victoria dropped on us tonight about who she is, the business that she has, and what's going on within their community. And also, if you'd like to be a guest on my show, you just reach out to me at Kimberly@WSBILC.com, and you can send me a short bio. I'd like to have a professional picture and a business logo. And hey, we'll get you scheduled on the show. I still have a few slots left for this year, so reach out to us. But until next time, you all have a wonderful evening, and good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com. and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.